Hi, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Big, Blonde, and Beautiful, the podcast. If you're new here, my name's Kara, and each week I take a look at a piece of media with fat representation in it, and I talk about whether it's positive or negative. This week, I'm going to be talking about the documentary called Your Fat Friend. This documentary came out last year, and I was able to buy a ticket to watch it online and then actually sit in on a discussion with Aubrey Gordon and the woman who directed the film, which is Jeannie Finlay. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that right, but it was an interesting discussion and an interesting film. So let's get into it. First, I'm going to give you a little synopsis. Because this film is still pretty new, it's not super mainstream, so I'm not sure where exactly you can watch it. So I think that a synopsis will be helpful for you guys to understand more of the context. This documentary focuses on the subject Aubrey Gordon, who originally went by Your Fat Friend when she was anonymous online. She spent 5 years writing about the realities of living as a self-described very fat person. And this documentary focuses on her transitioning from anonymous online blogger to becoming a public figure, showing her face for the first time. I enjoyed many parts of this documentary because I I haven't heard of many or any documentaries that the subject is a fat person, and it's not like, oh, poor me, I'm fat, I want to lose weight. Like, that's not the objective here. And I also love how candid Aubrey is. She began publishing online anonymously under the username Your Fat Friend, which is why the documentary is called Your Fat Friend. Through her blog postings, developed a lot of followers. She would talk about her experience as a fat person, recalling being kicked off of planes, having doctor's appointments being refused, and just a lot of conversations about dieting and self-hatred because of your body size. She talks very openly about all of these issues. So her very first post that got a lot of traction, I believe, is called A Request from Your Fat Friend: What I Need When We Talk About Bodies. And she talks about how she needs people, friends, fat and straight size, to say the word fat because it's just a word. It's what we are. And I feel like I know that for most people, especially when you're friends with someone, when they say that they're fat, because we are so conditioned to believe that that is a negative word, that that is a bad thing to be, that you immediately go, no, you're not fat, you're beautiful, just to deny fatness. And that is not really helpful. And that's really what Aubrey is getting at in this blog post. It can be hard to talk about because fatness is so demonized. It's seen as a moral failure. But the truth is, it's really just a way to describe someone's body. And when you say you're not fat, you're fill in here. You're really denying who this person is and also making it seem like fatness is inherently bad and that we should be ashamed and we should keep it a secret. But guess what? There's no way of keeping it a secret because it's the first thing you notice. It's my body type. I am fat. I am perfectly okay with that. I am fat and happy. Whatever. So that's the post that really launched her platform. And if I remember, it's been a while since I've seen the documentary. And like I said, it's not very mainstream. So I can't just like go back and rewatch it like I would with a lot of these episodes. So if I am recalling correctly, she was really just making the post, I mean, to get it out there, but also sometimes we just post things for ourselves just so we can, like, get the words and the feelings off of our chest. And I believe that's what she was doing. And, of course, now we see what happened. I mean, she has a whole documentary, she has a few books out, which I hope to read very soon. It helped empower fat people. It helped a lot of fat people feel seen. But also what comes with that is a lot of hate, which is also something that this documentary tackles, is the literal death threats that Aubrey receives. Even though I've gotten my fair share of hate online, just imagine people being so upset seeing you enjoying life in your body that they feel the need to threaten your life. Why they're so angry is because society has told them and it has told us we should hide ourselves until we can lose the weight. But people like Aubrey and myself and other fat content creators, we refuse to do that. Why should I have to hide and be miserable until I can somehow lose the weight if I can? To be honest, for a lot of people, that is not reality. For me, trigger warning, I would literally have to have a horrible eating disorder to be in the body that people want me to be in. And that is not something that I'm going to do ever. I refuse. I was on diets when I was younger. Atkins, Weight Watchers, the 100-calorie diets. I even tried at one point the military diet because I had a friend that was doing it in high school and it worked for her. And if you don't know what the military diet is, look it up. It's literally horrible. Also, as a picky eater, it was also horrible because I literally hated everything on that list. But that's not the point. You're not getting enough nutrients or anything in that diet. Like the whole it's a crash diet. The whole point is just the least amount of calories as possible, the bare minimum so that you can lose weight. But guess what? That's not sustainable and you can't keep that up. So I have not been on a diet. I actually recently am trying the whole just being in tune with your body and realizing what you need. And that has made me realize, like, oh, I need to eat more of this or less of this or whatever. And I feel great. I'm not trying to lose weight. But yeah, the crash diets and everything as a kid, I was on them. I'm sure many of you listening were also on them or are on them right now, you know? But Aubrey also talks about that. She actually has a collection of like fat diet books, and that cracks me up so much. She has one called like something like Help God, the Devil Wants Me Fat, or something pretty much that. And I had never heard of that book in my life before. It made me laugh so hard. I also love the fact that the cover of the documentary has a similar like color palette and font and stuff as that book. I'm pretty sure that was very intentional and I love it. It's so funny. Yeah, she has a collection of diet books and I think that's like her way to be like, isn't this ridiculous? And also she herself was on diets when she was younger, and she does kind of address specifically with her mom how women bond over hating their bodies. That is like a huge thing for women is you sit at a restaurant and you go, "Oh, I was bad this week. I'm going to have a salad and then we're going to talk about how much I hate my body and how I need to lose weight and how I'm gonna lose weight and do this and this and this and this. And don't we just hate our bodies? It's so horrible. And that is how we are expected to bond, is by hating ourselves. And it's literally insane that that is what we are trained to do. And not until this year have I really been unpacking all of that, and it's so horrible. And it can feel kind of awkward, honestly, now if I go out with people and they hate on their bodies, or they say like, "Ugh, I'm fat," and they're like clearly not, but they say it as it's a bad thing, because I'm not going to feed into it, and we are expected to just go along with it. And so sometimes it gets a little awkward because I'm like, no, I'm not going to do that. Also, if you say, "You're not fat, you're beautiful," I'm going to go, no, I'm fat and I'm beautiful. They're not mutually exclusive. It's not. Fat and ugly don't go together. Skinny and beautiful don't necessarily go together. You know what I mean. But it's so crazy. And I mean, men also fall into this trap, but I feel like less so than women. And also, being like a fat woman, I can only speak from my experiences. But I even have someone in my family who has been having a specific diet and they are feeling very good. They do seem genuinely happier, and I am very happy for them. I just hope that if it they decide no longer to be on this and they gain back some weight, that they are still able to be happy with themselves. I'm very worried that it's contingent on their physique and not necessarily other things that are more important, in my opinion. But they refuse to have certain foods, even on like special occasions like holidays, where you're like, oh, I could have like a little bit of, I don't know, mac and cheese or something. It won't, but I feel like they're worried that if they have a bite of that, it will send them overboard and they like won't be able to stop, or um and that's insane to me. And then I made a crack about, I said, well, I'd rather be happy and fat than skinny and miserable. And they were like, oh, don't get me started with that. That's like basically a crock of shit, is what they were saying. And I'm like, I wasn't going to have an argument because I do genuinely love this person. And it's also been a struggle for me. And I saw Aubrey struggle with this in her documentary, specifically with her mom. Um, it's a struggle when you start to unpack these things, but the people in your life aren't unpacking them, or they're not where you're at. And you have to kind of be okay with that. You can't push people to feel the way that you want them to, because ultimately that's going to have the opposite effect of what you want. And they have to find it on their own. So when someone that you love is, hating on their body, they are fat phobic, whether intentional or not. They are doing these diets that could potentially become harmful and lead to like more eating disorder behaviors. It's hard. I'm not gonna lie, but it's something that you have to deal with, and you have to focus on yourself. And I really truly believe that addressing all of this is helpful, and I hope that it helps. It helps me, so I hope it helps others. But Aubrey is just very candid. She's very witty in this. She doesn't stray away from the uncomfortable conversations, even with, her mother and other family and friends. She recognizes that not everyone's going to agree with her. And that's for dang sure. As I was saying earlier with the death threats, she was like worried for her life, genuinely. And the fact that you could be so upset that someone's living their life that you feel the need to threaten their life boggles my mind. I don't know. Even people even love to hate on the movie. Obviously, there are haters, there are trolls on the internet. We know that. That's nothing new. But for fat people, it is like amplified times 1,000. The comments I get are insane. And if they're not hate comments, usually then they are like lusty, creepy men in my comments or my DMs. I also just had someone recently, I posted a thing sharing one of the recent episodes of More Than Tracy Turnbow, which is one of my favorite podcasts. I had one of the hosts on for last season's finale, Abby, and I always learn so much when I listen to that podcast. I find it so genuinely interesting, and I posted it and I was like, even if you're not fat and you just have a fat friend, I highly recommend listening to this because I learned so much from it. And he swiped up and felt the need to go, "You're fat," where I know this man has seen my pictures because he's liked them. And I'm like, so we're doing the you're fat, you can't be fat, you're beautiful. Bitch, get out of here with that. Okay, bye. Okay, you know what that means? That means block and delete. Say it with me, everyone. Block and delete. They're your best friends. Those two buttons are your best friends. I actually also wanted to talk a little bit about Jeannie Finlay. I really hope that I'm saying that correctly. The director of this documentary. And I like how she goes about this subject. She allows Aubrey to be candid in the good moments and the bad moments. They talked in the like little Q&A thing that I was a part of with a huge group of people. How I can't remember if it was the director that said it to Aubrey or Aubrey that said it to the director, who was like, "Don't worry about getting flattering shots." First of all, hate the word flattering. It's so dumb. That's me saying that. But she's like, from every angle, I'm fat. Like, no camera angle is going to change the fact that I am fat. And also, if you're making a documentary about being fat and being a fat person, shouldn't you like not be worried about that? And I really appreciate that. And she's always like said she's looking for stories that are not told very often, and they focus on people who aren't considered to be in the spotlight, and their perspectives aren't like seriously considered. And she's very good at showing realistically the highs and lows of being a larger body without making it like, oh, we feel so bad for this person, or oh, being fat is great all the time, I'm the fat funny friend. It's neither of those. It's perfectly in the middle because it is so true to the experiences of being a fat person, and specifically Aubrey's experiences. And she also says in this one article that fat people can be the heroes, not just the punchline. And we are never the heroes. Like, who is a genuine, like, actual fat superhero that you've seen? And I know that she's saying, like, just like the ingenue or like the main character of the story. But like, we get none of those. We are the villains. We are the fat, funny friends. And the reason why it's damaging, because there's nothing necessarily inherently wrong about being the fat, funny friend. The villain, it also implies like being fat is morally wrong. So I can't say about that one. But being the fat friend, I'm a fat friend. I think that I'm funny, but at least in my online persona, I kind of try and dial that back. And I actually had a conversation with another content creator who said the same thing, where she tries to dial back that funniness because she does not want to be put into that box. Because people are complex. We are more than just one thing. And when you are constantly putting us in these tropes and just over and over and over again saying, this is where you need to be, this is what we want from you, since you look like this is all. There's all this stuff over here, but you can't touch that. You have to be this. And it's frustrating. And if we had a good balance of both, it wouldn't be such a big deal that we have that funny friend characters. But since we are never the main character with a love interest, like practically ever, it is a problem. And I think by the director picking Aubrey and her story, it's very important. It's very empowering. And I really enjoyed seeing the perspective, especially from someone who has really jumped into the deep end of being a fat public figure and how she deals with that and the highs and the very real lows of doing that without making it seem like she's the butt of the joke or she's something to be overly sympathized for because of her fatness. Because we can sympathize in this documentary, we sympathize with her more during the times when she's being harassed and bullied online. And yes, that is because of her fatness, but we aren't like, oh, her life's so miserable because she's fat. It's more these small moments are bad and or miserable because people are awful and hate fat people. It's not like her fatness is a character flaw or something that needs to be fixed. This is Aubrey Gordon. This is who she is. This is what she does. This is the result of it. Enjoy the documentary. So I really appreciate that. Obviously, if I had to say positive or negative, I definitely think that this documentary is positive. If you get a chance to watch it, I highly recommend. And if you get a chance to sit with her in person or online to like be a part of a Q&A with her, I also highly recommend that. You'll learn so much more about the film. And I really hope that I didn't miss anything. I always record these and then like as I'm editing, I'm like, I should have mentioned that, but also I'm not going to record a whole new episode. So if I missed out on anything, please leave a comment. Feel free to discuss. We are also going to look at some reviews. So I'm also been doing this thing when I remember where I read interesting or funny or even horrible reviews on the media that I'm discussing. The reason why I would read bad ones is to make it part of the discussion and like prove a point or something. This one says, beautiful, has changed the way I will think about my own bodies and others forever. I don't consider myself fat, rather average size. People have called me fat all my life, so I do feel a sense of reclamation towards it. But if I was, I'd call myself fat and wear it proudly because it's not a dirty word. It's a descriptive word. Let fat people describe themselves any way that they like. Oh, this one says, IDK if this movie is perfect, but Aubrey Gordon is. That's so sweet. Oh, also you should definitely go listen to Aubrey podcast called Maintenance Phase. Highly recommend. And this one says, and I would also do this, so Aubrey, if you're listening, you should do this, or at least make a podcast version. I'd watch a full documentary just on Aubrey's bonkers diet books collection alone, honestly. The cinematography is lovely. It's so nice to see a fat person filmed beautifully. Also some excellent proud dad content. Yes, her dad seems like a pretty great guy. I think those are all the reviews I'm going to read. And I think that brings us to the end of the episode. Thank you all so much for listening. please, please, please rate us 5 stars or like this video wherever you listen to podcasts, because it helps boost us in the algorithm so that more people can see this podcast. I really appreciate it. And as always, you can follow the podcast on TikTok at bbb.thepodcast and Instagram at bbb.podcast. You can follow me, your host, on all platforms at Carolina Howie. That's Carolina with a K. And until next time, stay fat and fabulous. Bye.